What's going on, Cardinals fans? Brenden Schaeffer back here with a little Cardinals news update. It's just after 11 a.m. on Sunday, April 7th. The Cardinals taking on the Marlins a little bit later on this afternoon at Busch Stadium. I am not down at the ballpark today. I was there Saturday, was there Thursday, but home with the family on Sunday. But I was still checking out Twitter this morning, and I just saw this come through on the timeline, something that will be very interesting to Cardinals fans. Saw the tweet from Katie Woo. And the word from Busch Stadium appears to be that Sonny Gray will make his Cardinal debut on Tuesday at Busch Stadium against the Phillies, with Katie tweeting, "Happy Sunday. Sonny Gray will make his Cardinals debut Tuesday against the Phillies. He will be on a pitch count of roughly 65. So that's the news that we've been waiting for. If you can recall back to Thursday on the home opener day, in the clubhouse, Sonny Gray, media gets to talk to him around 10:30 a.m. because that's when we could get into the clubhouse. He happened to be in there. And we all went over to him, and he said, look, I don't really know what I can say just yet, but I'll talk to you guys anyway. And that kind of set off the wheels in motion, I think, to Sonny Gray being able to kind of push for his opportunity to come a little bit sooner than I think the Cardinals were initially expecting it to be. Sonny has been rehabbing, of course, ever since the hamstring injury in early March, but for the last 10 days to 2 weeks or so, according to him, he's really had the hamstring part of it out of his mind. It's really been more about building back up to a pitch count and then being able to join the Cardinals as a result of that. He had the simulated game on Wednesday in Springfield. It was supposed to be Memphis, but they had some weather issues where the Memphis Redbirds were in Indianapolis at the time, and they're still there as of this Sunday. So Sonny Gray goes to Springfield. He throws 54 pitches in 4 simulated innings against some double-A guys down there. Comes back to Busch on Thursday, talks to us and says, look, if I had my preference, it would be to pitch in St. Louis with my next outing. If it's up to me, that's what I want to do. So we think, okay, that's kind of interesting. Go out to the Cardinal dugout, get the media availability on Thursday with John Mozeliak, who told Jim Hayes of Bally Sports that the plan is he's going to pitch in Memphis on Tuesday. Sonny Gray is going to have one more rehab assignment, one more rehab start, Memphis on Tuesday. But then Mozeliak comes down to the other end of the dugout where all the other media are waiting for him, and the question is asked about Sonny Gray again. What's his next step going to be? And Mo says, well, I've been asked this question a lot this morning, and he seemed maybe a little surprised by that, and said, look, the original plan, and I guess plans can change, but the original plan was Tuesday in Memphis and then rejoining the Cardinals on the road trip, assuming all would go well in that start. And look, that wasn't necessarily an unreasonable expectation of the way the Cardinals could do it, but if Sonny Gray feels good, healthy, and strong, and told us as of Thursday that he expects to be 70, 75 pitches in his subsequent outing, wherever and whenever that might take place, then maybe it might as well just take place in St. Louis. I think that's the way Sonny feels. He's absolutely itching to go, to be there and to join this team and to start to contribute. Obviously, from the Cardinals standpoint, you don't want to risk health. That's the first element of this, I think. But if you're just going to keep him on the same pitch count that he would have had in Memphis, and honestly, it sounds like maybe even a little bit lower of a pitch count, because Sonny told us 70, 75 pitches might be a reasonable target for his next outing, and now we're hearing 65, according to just the tweets that I'm reading from the reporters down at Busch on Sunday morning. I am not there, going to be totally clear about that, but reading the tweets and giving credit to who's got the reporting down there. I'll read this one from John Denton, now coming across my screen as I record here. Cardinal manager Ollie Marmol on Sonny Gray making his first start Tuesday in St. Louis instead of AAA Memphis. Quote, he is as direct and honest of a human as you can ever encounter, and if he says he's 100% himself and ready to go, from my seat, I trust that. So that's where the Cardinals are. Again, it sounded like John Mozeliak initially was of the mind that Sonny Gray would go Tuesday in Memphis. They'd give him one more rehab start. But the other element of this, as of talking to Sonny and then talking to Mo, those two sides had not yet communicated on Thursday, which is normal. That's not some smoking gun of internal discord, or let's not try to start anything here. That's just a normal mechanical way for that to go, because it was 10:30 in the morning and a lot was going on that Thursday on opening day, or the home opener rather. I think if it was a situation where you're talking about mid-June and there's not all the hubbub surrounding that first game at Busch, maybe that conversation does happen between Mo and with Ollie and with the staff and with Sonny earlier in the day on Thursday as to what his next steps might be and everybody getting on the same page. They just hadn't spoken as of when the clubhouse opened in the morning. And there are rules with MLB of when the clubhouse needs to be open. So it's not like, at times they can massage that a little bit, but it's not like they were going to, with everything else that was going on, and in particular, all the injuries, not just the opening day stuff, but the injuries. They had to figure out Contreras, they had to figure out Donovan, Matt Carpenter, then they had to get Pedro Pajes on the way. Like there were a lot of moving parts that morning, so it's understandable that those conversations with Sonny Gray would not have taken place after he rolls back into town from Springfield Thursday morning. That being said, we're getting this news now on Sunday, so even then, it's not that we might have had a definitive decision on Thursday, if that's a Thursday in June. They needed to see maybe more from Sonny Gray in terms of how his bullpen that he threw yesterday on Saturday out in the right field bullpen at Busch Stadium would go. And that happened. Clearly, it went well. They touched base with another conversation, and he says, look, I'm 100%. I'm ready. I'm ready for the amount of pitches that you're ready for me to throw. And I think the Cardinals are going to be very cautious. I would bet you could see 4 innings, 65 pitches as a possibility there when it comes to Sonny Gray and what he's going to throw in that game on Tuesday against the Phillies. They're going to be pretty cautious. This guy's coming back from a hamstring. The hamstring is not a factor. It's not like they're pushing him through an injury. The injury part is recovered. It's more of a question of, and again, the injury part we say is recovered because Sonny says it is. He knows his body better than the Cardinals are going to be able to diagnose or get eyes on exactly how he's feeling in that leg. He told us on Thursday he's not thinking about it anymore. He acknowledged that at first that was a factor. Every pitch you make is, I really hope my leg doesn't pop again. And that's a little bit of an alarming thing to hear from your ace starting pitcher. But he was speaking in the past tense as something that had happened earlier on when he first got back on the mound. Right after the injury happens, you take a few days, you start to ramp back up, and you go, man, I really hope it doesn't crop back up on me. In his mind, that's not something that's on the table anymore. In his last 2 times he pitched, that's the Wednesday in Springfield and the previous outing that he had, which I believe was a sim game as well. That was no longer a factor in his mind of I'm having to cater to this injury. It was really in his mind, and he is a candid guy, an honest guy. He'll tell you what it is, and he'll tell you what it isn't. If he says it, I trust his word as well, that it's not something that's on his mind anymore. And you certainly can't have a guy returning to an MLB game with catering to a weak spot or a potentially compromised or injured spot on his body, still something that's lingering in his mind. That's not something you can have. But again, to reiterate, that doesn't seem to be the situation here, according to the man himself. Katie adding now another tweet regarding the pitch count. A variety of factors, including an off day on Thursday, allow the Cardinals to use Gray without worrying that he'll overtax the bullpen, which Katie adds has been pretty good to start the year, which is exactly what I said in this morning's episode of Be Shafe Daily, which you can find on the YouTube channel. You can find on Spotify by searching Be Shafe Daily and following over there. But we talked a lot about Steven Matz and then mentioning the bullpen as well and the great job that they've done. So if you missed that, that's a 30-minute episode of Be Shafe Daily that you can check out sometime on Sunday or even Monday. It's not like Sunday's game happens and then that episode's no longer relevant. It's definitely relevant because we really focused in on how the Cardinals have handled Steven Matz and sort of our thoughts on that. So that's going to be an episode you can go back to within the next few days if you happen to have missed it this morning, because I did get it up a little bit late, unfortunately, because I fell asleep watching the Final Four last night. Anyway, I actually agree with what the Cardinals are doing here. Is there some element of risk? Sure. There's always going to be, though, because he's going to have to come back at some point, and he's a guy that's had 3 hamstring situations crop up on him within the last couple of years. So it's always going to be something that is in the back of our minds, I think, as media or as whether you're a fan, whether you're John Mozeliak, it's something that's always kind of lingering there. But if it's Sonny Gray and he's not thinking about it, I think that's the most important element of this. That is just not something that he's going to focus too heavily on. He knows he's just got to go out and do his job and pitch. And as long as that's not lingering in his mind and you're having to cater to an injury or a weak spot that's compromised on your body, I think he's going to be okay to throw his 65, 70 pitches, whatever it is, whether it's in St. Louis, whether it's with Memphis. I kind of like the idea. And I like the idea, too, with the off day Thursday, knowing that, hey, you can maybe burn up your bullpen a little bit, and they're all going to get that day back on Thursday after the Philly series wraps up. The other side of that could be a little bit of a worry is, like, you did use 4 innings of bullpen on Saturday. What if Sunday ends up being a shorter start for Gibby? Hopefully, as we record this just a couple hours ahead of the game, it's not the case, and Gibson can give you 6 or 7 again, and that would be the ideal circumstance. But yeah, I mean, by Tuesday, you could be in a spot where you're wishing you had a little bit more from Gray, but that could be a day where you just know going in, like Liberatore is going to go multiple, or Ryan Fernandez are going to ask for multiple from him. I get the off day on the back end of it Thursday, but let's not pretend that there's no risk going in with a guy who if he's not efficient, he could end up going 3 innings. Like, that is a reality of what could happen. If you're talking only 65 pitches, if he goes 25 in the first inning, it could be a scoreless inning. But suddenly then you're looking at the efficiency of it, and you're really kind of getting hot beneath the collar about, well, how far can he really go in this game? Other side of it, he could go 5 up downs if he's really, really efficient. If he 68 pitches, 5 innings, that's a perfect scenario. But you do have to recognize that Tuesday the bullpen is going to be asked to carry the load a little bit more. And so that really does put the onus on the guys pitching before that to be hyper efficient with what's going on. The other side of this, maybe you have Zach Thompson kind of piggybacking with Sonny Gray anyway, right, on Tuesday, which could have been his day to start. The way that you'd handle that is to obviously send somebody else down from your pitching staff, from your bullpen, either that or it's an injury that crops up between now and then. But John King, right, he came up. He could probably just as easily go back if push came to shove. And particularly for that moment in time, even if the Cardinals decide they want to keep Zach Thompson on a starter schedule and build him up and eventually send him back to Memphis, you can certainly, for the moment, say he's piggybacking with whatever Gray is able to give you, and that's how you bulk inning your way through a little bit of a longer start. Or if they happen to need Zach Thompson a little earlier, maybe they use him Monday. I know that would be a little bit of a squeeze compared to the schedule he's been on, but I don't think it would be too crazy if they just say, hey, we would need 2 innings from you today. But I think they reserve him for Tuesday, and he's behind Sonny, and everything works out. Catching up on some of the timeline stuff here as we wrap up this recording, because I want to get it out for you guys on YouTube. I won't put this on Spotify, but get it up on YouTube for folks who are curious for my take on the decision. One more quote from Ollie Marmol. Sonny Gray is very confident in how his body feels, and he said he's 100% himself physically and mentally, and he's ready to contribute at this level. I think it's a different scenario, thinking back to, I can't remember if this was last year or the year before, where Jack Flaherty was on and off the IL and came back one start too early from where he wanted to come to St. Louis, and they said, hey, we'd rather rehab you. And he said, you can't really make me. And so he came back into the rotation. I don't think this is the same situation as that. I just think you can have a little bit more trust and faith in the mentality that Gray's going to bring to this than where Flaherty was last year. And I hope Jack has a great season, but it just wasn't, I don't think it's an exact comparable situation when you take a guy where Jack was at that point in his career versus Sonny coming off of a second in the Cy Young vote season last year. And they're just different pitchers as well. I think this is a scenario where you can have some trust that Sonny Gray is, if he's telling you he's good, that he's going to be good. And we'll see if it plays out that way. But what do you think, Cardinals fans? Let us know in the comments. Does kind of having the Jack Flaherty thing that had happened, and then he came back and it seemed like he was not throwing strikes and it wasn't really a productive situation. Does that linger in the back of your mind? Or do you say, look, Sonny Gray is a different player than Jack Flaherty? That's neither good or bad or indifferent. It's just they're different guys. And you feel like Sonny Gray going into this is going to give you exactly what's going on with him, and it's all going to work out. Do you worry about taxing the bullpen, or do you feel like, hey, having Zach Thompson available probably makes that a moot point as well? Is this something that you're excited about? I think if you're a Cardinals fan and you have a ticket to Tuesday's game, you're probably feeling pretty good about the decision, because otherwise you'd have had, who knows how long the wait would have been. He would have pitched on that road trip, and then it would have been a situation where the following homestand hopefully lines up for him. So it would have been a while. Now you're going to get to see Tuesday, Sonny Gray getting an opportunity to start for the Cardinals at Busch Stadium against the Phillies. Thank you guys so much for joining me for this video. We're doing this kind of stuff all season long for the St. Louis Cardinals. When there's news, especially when I happen to be home when the news is going on, I'll jump right on and give you guys my instant thoughts, as Sonny Gray will be starting for the Cardinals on Tuesday. According to Katie Wu and other reporters at Busch Stadium, pitch count of about 65 is the expectation. We'll see how many innings Sonny Gray is able to log with that. But we can break all this kind of stuff down on the YouTube channel. Brenden Schaeffer, St. Louis Cardinals writer. Appreciate you guys, as always, for joining me. We'll talk to you next time on the channel. Peace.